But one day I got a call from Wayne Carlson, and he said, I want you to meet with a couple pastors. They're from this church called Dolores Park Covenant Church. As they celebrated one of their big anniversaries, they realized they were getting older, and the interim pastor they had come in said, well, one of the best ways to revitalize your church is to put money into the start of a new church. So they were one of our first sponsors. So we're here at Dolores Park Covenant Church. It was founded in 1877. I really feel like the story of Edgewater is several stories of God's grace, of His unfair love, His undeserved favor, combined with people who He led to get in the game and to really partner with us. So we have churches like Hillmark Covenant, like Dolores Park here, Hope Center Covenant Church, Saratoga Federated Church. Not only that, but when I worked with InterVarsity, I had a team of people who were financially supporting our ministry. And many of those people decided to continue their support for Edgewater for 3 years to help us get started. One of the big deals was trying to figure out where we would meet as a church. And so we were looking for a school somewhere on the border of Pittsburgh and Antioch, and we checked out a couple schools, but the one that seemed to fit best was right here at Stoneman Elementary. And one of our big issues was storage. We had so much equipment, and so I asked the principal if there might be any extra storage that we could use in the school, and she literally laughed in my face. Here's an idea. What if can we have a storage container on the school premises, and as part of the deal, we'll also rent you one? And so we went back to the principal, and she was flabbergasted by the idea, and she loved it. She said, yes, if you will rent one for us, you can have one too on our property. So that's what happened. But the story gets even better. There was a person who was part of our early church who heard the story and said, you know, the one problem with this is one day when Edgewater leaves Stoneman, that means they won't have that storage container anymore. And he said, can I buy them a storage container that they can have permanently? And I said, that would be wonderful. So he put about $2,000 down to buy one, and one of our first gifts to the school was getting them a storage container, and that was the beginning of a great relationship with Stoneman Elementary. One of the things we did was ask people from Hope Center Covenant Church to come out and help start Edgewater over where we were. The pastor and his staff were incredibly supportive. And out of that came some key families that were part of our original core team that started Edgewater. Scott and Andrea Martin, Bill and Deborah Buellman, Greg Carr. Another 5 people came out of Golden Hills to be part of our start team. Al and Carola Borge, Carlos and Melinda Paniche, and Yvonne Betancourt. Another person named Ron Knapp joined us as well. And so we had about, with myself and Becky, we had about 13 adults that were part of this core team. But then a lot of the meetings actually ended up being right here at our Antioch house. And so there's a lot of good memories here of getting together with various groups, especially our core team. Spent a lot of time praying and planning and dreaming. We began to form teams here for our first service. Yvonne took on the whole First Impressions hospitality. The mission of her team was just to let people know of God's love as soon as they enter the church. Deborah Buellman took over our tech, doing all the slides and video. Bill Buellman took over the sound system. He helped us purchase that and set it up and use his skills. Becky and Carola took over Kids Zone. I remember Scott and Andrea saying, we'll take on worship. One of the most touching stories for me was Ron Knapp. He's no longer with Edgewater, but he helped out significantly up front. And this guy is a high-level manager, used to being on leadership in churches. And I went up to him, I think I called him and said, hey Ron, our biggest need right now is someone to set up and take down chairs. Would you be willing? He said, of course I would, wherever I can be helpful. But we just had this sense of God's grace bringing people together, and then people stepping into the game and saying, I want to be part of this. I want to take a risk. I want to do something to partner with what God is doing, to see people come to know Jesus. I will do whatever it takes. So our first service, we had about 75 people, and that trend continued. And just for perspective, most new churches start with an average of about 40 people. But what was really amazing was just all the stories of the people who were coming and the people who were giving their lives to Jesus. One person saw a sign in front of someone's house. Another person was invited. People who had formerly been in prison, people who were with crime records, people who were far from church, people whose lives were just messed up, but they were experiencing God's love in a new and refreshing way. It's a mixture of God's grace and people getting in the game together that began to tell our story as a church.